Right, good morning. Thank you for welcoming us here today on the Away Festival. I think we're the first session of the Away Festival, so that's very exciting. I want to thank Dan and Harriet and the team, ICS Accounting, for sponsoring the event, and of course, the three guests that we've got here today. Thrilled to be here, especially this day when we're all allowed out again, when we can see each other in person, so that's really exciting as well. And our session this morning is kind of, what is Electech? And we're trying to get an electronics perspective on that. So I'm going to introduce our three speakers today, get a bit of a sense of their business, then I'm going to go back around and dig into those businesses and see if we can get a conversation going about how their businesses kind of key into the electronics and the Electech sector and why that's so important for our regional kind of PLC. So I'll go down the line. Matt, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your business?
Yep, I'm Matt Chamberlain. So I'm the engineering manager at OTAC. So OTAC's a group of companies. We're working on marine technology from all sorts of sectors, from aquaculture to offshore engineering. We've got a couple of bases based here in Lancaster, also South Lakes, Aberdeen, and we've got an office in Chile as well.
Right, blimey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Chile. Right, I'll have to visit the Chilean office at some point fairly soon. Rich, tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, hi there. My name's Richard Grant. I'm a managing director at Milliamp Technologies, which is an electronics, software and manufacturing consultancy based right here in the White Cross. So unfortunately not in Chile. So my business is we effectively act as contract design and manufacturing for many customers. So we're involved in a number of different areas, different sectors, everything from aerospace and power all the way across to eBay gadgets. I've got 30 years of experience working designing electronics. So I'm very much still a hands-on engineer. You'll find me everything from designing circuit boards and writing software to trying to solder circuit boards with very tiny components the size of a grain of salt. It's very much my hobby and my passion. So I very much enjoy working in the White Cross and having a business in this beautiful city.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that, Rich. That's a great introduction to your business. Natasha, tell us about Rinicom.
Yes, so Rinicom was founded in 2002. It was originally based down in Southampton and over the years has migrated up north, first to Leeds and then over to Lancaster, where it's been for around 10 years now. Rinicom's very much twofold, so we have a huge focus on the hardware sector. One of our key products at the moment is the software-defined radio. And we also have a software element as well. So it's all things embedded software, which go onto a lot of our electronics. So I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that during the conversations.
Excellent. Well, look, we've got to know you a little bit, but I want to dig deeper now into each of the businesses concerned. And then we'll have a bit more of a free-flowing conversation sort of when we've done that. So Matt, tell us a bit more about OTAC. Dig into that for us. Tell us how it came about. Tell us how you got involved. Marine tech seems to be a kind of strange thing. Who gets involved in marine tech? I know nobody apart from you. So how did that come about? And what do you do on a day-to-day business? Day-to-day kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, sure. So it spins out of, so around the South Lakes in this area, we've got a lot of sonar technology coming out the Barrow shipyards, which is now BAE. There's been lots of offshoots of that. So we have, so that's obviously followed the oil and gas work for many years, but oil price has its highs and its lows. So in the leaner times, you look for other sectors, and aquaculture came up. In particular, salmon farming up in the north of Scotland, the Highlands and Islands of Scotland. And they need predator deterrents, basically. You can get a lot of attacks from seals, who have basically a big cage of fish that they'd like to go and nick.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel for a seal.
Yeah. So they in the olden days you could use lethal methods, but we wanted a non-lethal deterrent. So we used the sonar knowledge of sound in water, and we came up with a predator deterrent. So we came up with a seal fence system, which works on seals and sea lions. Hence the chili came in.
Right.
So salmon farming is also big in Chile. It grows, if you know, like the wine regions. It grows in there's a band across the north and a band across the south.
Yeah.
So from Scotland, across Norway, across through Canada, Alaska as well, and then in the south it goes Chile, Australia, Tasmania. So we're exploring those markets as well, but we're quite established in the Chilean office.
Brilliant. So that seal anti-predation activity, is that 100% of the business, or is there other stuff that goes on?
So that's our aquaculture division. So in Lancaster, we're mainly based on the aquaculture division. We've got an Aberdeen office that does offshore as well. So they've got quite a couple of innovative problems. They've got Ocean Sense, which is leak detection. So finding leaks in water is quite a challenge.
Yes, I can imagine.
So that they use when the fluid's going through the pipe, they can add dyes. So they've got an ocean sense that can sit on an ROV and measure the release of dyes in the water. There's also got the dragonfish, which is a laser measuring device, again for underwater pipe detection, and that they can use laser beams to for the accurate measurement of underwater. So they've got those as well as a number of cameras and lights for ROV underwater vehicle based systems.
So hugely innovative. Really cutting edge tech stuff. What I want to do is, once we've gone around and got a little bit more from the others, is to kind of think about, why here and why, why you and why here, and unpick a little bit of the kind of I know you have, obviously this is excitingly in Chilean and everything, but, unpick a little bit about why Lancaster. So let's think about that for a moment. But Rich, tell us about your business and Milliamp, and again, sort of unpick a bit of a kind of a day at Milliamp.
Okay, so Milliamp basically started in 2009 as effectively a consultancy, so I was a typical one-man band. Just to service the local technical design needs of the Morecambe Bay area. So initially, most of our customers were in this region, basically where a business may need extras to design assistants to come in and maybe solve complex electrotech problems to do with the hardware design or software development. So we continued on that route for some years, but then in about 2016, we started to expand the business, started to grow our team, took an office in the White Cross, and we've kind of gone from there really and grown our customer base around the world. We're involved very much in a number of different sectors, everything from, as I said before, large scale industries all the way across to gadgets that you might find on eBay. Very much we operate behind the scenes, which is a bit of a problem because we can't often talk too much about our customers because we tend to be very much have to keep things secret because they are often new products. But from my perspective, that makes things very exciting and keeps things fresh. Yeah. This past year, we've been very busy on COVID-19 related projects. So we were involved locally with Lancaster University, setting up a COVID-19 focused priority manufacturing and development sort of cluster in the area. Later on, we provided some expert assistance to the UK ventilator challenge, which when there was a lack of ventilators around the UK, where we provided some expert assistance, again, very much behind the scenes. And then more recently, we've been working on a COVID-19 product that filters COVID-19 out of the air using LED technology. So we've been very, very busy. In between that, we've still had our traditional kind of contract work going on behind the scenes, including we've recently finished a project that allows, very similar to what I mentioned before, where we can monitor flow in pipes using sound. And also we've been working on a completely different type of project, a consumer product that's used in the equine industry for measuring horses. Right. So our work is very varied. Indeed, but it keeps exciting. Yeah. It really does, and we really enjoy it.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Natasha, do you want to, again, open up a little bit more about Rinicom? And also, it's two wings, because there's two Rinicoms, kind of.
Yes, I can go into that in a little bit more detail. So Rinicom itself has always been very much R&D focused. So their very first product was based on a gap they saw in the market, and it was to develop one of the world's smallest video transmission devices that was wireless. Since then, we've built up our customer base, and we've been able to continue with our commercial products, but also put quite a lot of emphasis on developing new and improved or innovative projects and products. And that's internal funding, but also external grant funding as well. So we've got a real mixture. And quite a lot of the culture within Rinicom itself is very much focused on what's next, what's new, what's coming, what can we help with, based on what the hot topic is, obviously, in the world at the moment. So Rinicom obviously started down south, it moved up. And one of our grant-funded projects was around counter UAVs. Again, this has been a hot topic on and off throughout the years. With
UAVs, tell them about that.
Unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. So, for example, the incident at Gatwick Airport was a huge hot topic when Gatwick was obviously attacked with unknown drones, shall we say. So we've sort of commercialised based on that. So following on from the grant funding, we were then able to commercialise the product to now have several products in the Sky Patriot range, which is our drone detection system. From there, which is coming back to your point, we were able to create a spin-off company called Rinicom Intelligent Solutions, still based in Lancaster. So the two companies are in the same office, but we've expanded to take the whole top floor of Riverway House. And Rinicom Intelligent Solutions focuses predominantly on the counter UAV system, and they're very much software focused. Runicom, as I mentioned earlier, have about 2 or 3 years ago started to redevelop their software-defined radio. And more recently, they've won a contract with AD Comms and Panasonic Europe to work on their Deep Tube project with the London Underground. And so they're providing the radio-based system for that overall project. So that's their key focus at the minute. And so we're now looking at sort of restructuring and changing, and we're recruiting quite a lot now, which will probably come into the Tech Lancaster conversation in a little while, as to how we've found recruitment challenging, but also this program's been useful. So Runicom's very diverse. We do have a lot of different markets as well, like Rich mentioned. We also have the healthcare market, which created another spin-off company. And we work quite closely with the universities, particularly Lancaster. The CEO was a professor at Lancaster before he retired, which is why we're in Lancaster to start.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. That's fantastic. And now I think we've got a bit of a better sense of all of your businesses. Certainly when I came to Lancaster, I thought, this is a beautiful place. I love being here. But I didn't know there was all this going on. And then I was lucky enough to be asked to run Digital Lancashire for a little while. Digital Lancashire, if people don't know, is essentially the kind of trade body for digital businesses in the region. And that's funded by the County Council. And that was lovely because that allowed me to meet an awful lot of businesses. I think I met some of you guys when I was doing that gig. So that was great for me because it kind of lifted the lid off what was going on in Lancaster. But as Rich said a moment ago, there's all this innovation going on, but we don't know about it. We don't hear about it. So is there anything we can do about that, or is that just how it is? So I'll go to you first, Matt. Do you think that's just the nature of these businesses, or can we do a little bit more to shine a light on the huge amount of innovation that's going on in the city region?
I think it's the nature of the businesses. I think, techs, we usually getting our heads down, developing the things, getting them out for our customers, really. But I think, what we do is, I always think what we do is, if a customer wants an intelligent product, that's Electech, that's electronics. Yeah. My electronics has been my career for nearly 20 years now. Like I say, Lancaster, born and bred in Lancaster. And so I've sort of grown through the companies in the area, taking everything from, I started with contract design, starting with something like, I think my first product was a skip light. So someone wanted to flash an orange light on a skip with a battery charger at night. Moving on to multi-beam sonars, imaging the seafloor. I've worked with so many different customers on all the various things. So I found, the customers sort of know we're here, but we have very much kept ourselves to ourselves. That has led to challenges through attracting people. But like you said, the area I find it very attractive. I say I'm born and bred, but I know Rich in particular came to university and stayed. Yourself in the area. So you say you came, you stayed in the area. So it's certainly attractive for people who want to come here and want to work and want to get involved in the local businesses.
So Rich, tell us a little bit about kind of that journey for you as well. The staying in. What is it about Lancaster? What's in the water here that really helps you in your business?
Yeah, so I originate from near Liverpool and came here to go to university. Initially wanted to actually move to a job in the south, but ended up working over in Ulverston for a number of years at a company called Oxley. Oxley was, when I joined, this was some time ago, it's a very, very old sort of local business of the Bay Area, and I really discovered that not only could I do what I enjoyed doing, I could also sort of do it in sort of beautiful scenery of Morecambe Bay, and continued to work there for a number of years before I came back to Lancaster and continued to work in the local industry here. But I think we have so many exciting companies in the region, but I think, as Matt says, I think that the whole mentality in the engineering and Electech kind of sector is kind of get your head down, really. And I think that moving forward, as the UK becomes more outward focused, around the various changes that have happened in the past year or two, I just think that we really can show ourselves to the rest of the world as being a real powerhouse of innovation in this area. And I hope that these types of events and the work we've been doing this year is really going to underpin a really good future in the sector. But I absolutely enjoy my job, but I can't think of a better place to do it than Lancaster, really. Yeah,
brilliant. Natasha, from your perspective?
Probably a little biased because I was born and raised also here, so I love the area. But I probably did the opposite to Rich, so I went away to uni and then came back. It's just sort of got that pull. I think Lancaster's good in all different senses. So you've got the beach, you've obviously got the Lake District, but you're very close to big cities like Manchester and Preston and Liverpool, and you've got all that on your doorstep. It's sort of an hour's drive, so you're never really secluded, but you have the quiet space also. And just touching a little bit on what Rich and Matt both said about the engineers getting their heads down. So my background's project management, not engineering. And I've come in from a business that was quite outspoken. It was good on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And I've come into Runicom and it's very much engineering focused. You get down, you get on with the job, but you don't promote it. And there's sort of twofold to that. A lot of the systems and things that we work on are sensitively, commercially sensitive. So it's not an option to spread the word and promote it. But some things are, and I think working together, we can probably promote that better. And just until the last year, I wasn't aware of even the different companies available in Lancaster. Like I knew of Milliamp and Otech, but I didn't really know what they did or how we could work together, if there's any collaborations. We were just very separate.
So what I want to do is I want to dig into how we might kind of continue to push this kind of collaboration envelope, try to again make the businesses collaborate a little bit better. And I think a little bit about how we can shine a light on the sector. But I also want to take us back just for a moment to a definition, because our talk this morning is kind of, this is an Electech dedicated day in a sense. We're going to talk a lot about Electech today. But I want to ask kind of what is Electech. So I'm going to throw a definition now to you, and I want to see if you pick that definition up, see if that kind of makes sense to you, and then run with it a little bit. So the Innovate UK, I'm going to read this so I don't get it wrong, have a definition which I quite like on their blog on the GovUK site, which says, Electech is the enabler of all things digital. It is the hardware and embedded software that allows products and processes to communicate, have power, have intelligence, have situational awareness, be controlled, be automated, be operated safely, and even autonomously. So it's the stuff, the undergirding of digital. That's kind of how I see it. Does that make sense to you, Matt? And is that how you see Electech? And is it a word that you kind of throw about? I mean, you used it before, but maybe that's because I kind of planted it in your mind. But do you generally use it? Do you say Electech for folk when you're out partying?
No, I try to avoid that. No, it's not a word I've used before, but I'm getting on with the term to be that brand, to be recognised outside of our little industry. To me, it's always been electronics.
Right.
That's been my industry. It's electronics. And like you say, yes, my view is it's that base, it's that hardware, it's the software, it's the thing inside the box that it's the cleverness inside the box.
And
really.
Is that what attracts you to it? The fact
because that's what I want. My key is developing that cleverness.
Yeah. So are you that little boy that wanted to kind of open stuff up and play with it?
Oh yeah. No, I've always loved it, and I love the fact that plenty of jobs, it comes from basically like a half sheet of paper.
Yeah.
A customer goes, I've had an idea, I want a thing that does this, and you go, okay, well, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I can make all those, make that happen to have that. So yeah, I see that it creates, and I think I mentioned before, like if any customer, any business wants an intelligent product that is theirs, doing their clever thing in their special area, that's what electronics can bring you.
That's what you can do. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask about the challenges of the skills of people like you in a second. I'm going to come back to that because I want to throw that question first to Rich. Rich, this funny word Electech, do we like it? Do we not like it? Do you play with it?
So it's a complicated one. So as Matt says, we know the sector, the industry around electronics, and also associated areas like photonics to do with lighting and LEDs and things like that.
Optoelectronics.
Yeah, we know about the sector internally, but it's other people looking in sometimes struggle to kind of quantify us because we are very much hidden behind the scenes. Of what really goes on. So as you say, Innovate UK, part of central government and trade bodies, about 3 or 4 years ago, attempted to try and create a definition. To try and create a brand around this, and as you'll see in the data, they actually analysed the market and what makes up Electech, and they actually found that 6% of the UK's GDP is generated by Electech, which compared to the financial sector, which is 7%, it's quite a lot.
But nobody knows it.
No one knows this. No. So I think they're trying to build on this brand. I think the UK Electech sector employs over 1 million people, so it's huge. It's just very well hidden, I think. Yeah. So we're trying to build on that, and I think the more we can talk about it and tell people what we actually do, I think the more people will continue to kind of support the sector and join the sector, because as we're going to talk about shortly, recruitment and skills is a big issue we have.
And again, are you like Matt? Were you that little boy that wanted to break things down and find out how they work?
Yeah, so I'm half a software engineer as well.
Oh, okay.
So not only do I want to break them apart, I want to work out how the software was working inside them. So that changed a little bit. But ultimately, I, as a child, grew up in an environment in the 80s where it was very much, there was still the back end of innovation. And ARM, for example, which is now has its technology in every single smartphone on the planet, was currently growing, in Cambridge. And those types of companies, have generated massive value for this country. Electech has obviously been around a long time. It's been around since World War II. I mentioned before, I worked for a company called Oxley over in Morecambe Bay. They were involved in Electech in the 1940s, innovating the first radars, and we created the world's first programmable computer in the 1940s. So this sector isn't new; it's been around a long time. It's just been very well hidden.
Word that's new.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we really can get a handle on it, and I think that will really help, both people and policymakers understand how they can best support it going forward, and really give us a better shot from.
I think that's if there's any use for a funny word, it's that it shines a light on something and people can label it, point at it, and then hopefully support it. So Natasha, do you use this word? Do you kind of run about saying it to folk?
No, it's got some credibility. So no, I agree with the definition provided by Innovate UK for the term Electech, and I think it's good that they're trying to market it and put it out there and making it more sort of well known. The only sort of challenge I have with that definition is it's still very engineering. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to people? What is electronics? What is Electech? Is it your phone? Is it your car? You could probably make it very simple for people to buy into the concept. Yeah. But at the minute, it's still very engineering based for me. My background isn't engineering, so I didn't grow up thinking I want to break things and make things. My sort of background is project management. So
as a project manager, are you going to throw at us a bit of a better definition, or a way to find a better definition?
I think just making it more accessible to everybody, because at the minute it is very focused on the people in the industry. So if I said Electech to someone, even friends and family and things, they'd just be blank. Yeah. They have no concept of that. They don't understand what that means for them. And I think that's with everything, really. If you can make it applicable to the people actually using it, then they'll probably buy into it quicker.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so we've talked a lot about our businesses. We've talked about the region and why it's kind of great to be here in Lancaster and what amazing businesses there are in Lancaster. But we do have some issues, of course. We've all faced the challenges of the last year. Well, everybody's, of course, faced those. But also we have kind of, how do we find the Matts and the Riches and the Natashas of the future? How do we get people who are not from an engineering background to come into this sector? And how do we get the engineers and the skilled young people to kind of take it up? Now, I know that we've got this kind of concept of Tech Lancaster, so I'm going to ask Rich to talk about that a little bit. But from your perspective, Matt, and obviously you can touch upon that kind of terrain of Tech Lancaster, how do you think we could go about getting more people involved in the sector? Or are they just floods of them coming anyway? Do we not need them?
I think it starts at starts at a young age, doesn't it? It starts at schools. Mm-hmm. Just carrying on what Natasha said about what people don't understand electronics. I think part of it is because it's so broad. Mm-hmm. Electronics is in everything. It is in your phone. It's in your car. It's in your computer. It's in the sea. It's in the air, space, everywhere. So it is quite hard to label it. But if you can show that to people, it's like you can be involved in something that is everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's what to me is quite exciting.
Exactly,
because I'm not an engineer, but I'm excited to be involved and working with the people in the sector because it's in everything. It does everything.
Yeah. But the way I started is I was the kid that liked always involved in taking apart stuff. But the course was at school, so I did the old AS level electronic engineering at school, and that was my bug.
Does that still exist?
I don't know if they've exist anymore. I think there's talk about T levels now, right. But I don't know if they're starting yet. So, but that was it. It was pure electronics, right. And it was really building circuit boards. It was getting down, soldering, building it. I think because you build a radio. I think that was my first thing at school. Built a radio. I was like, this is amazing. I can do this, and that was it.
Because before you can build a radio is just magic. It's just that you turn
turn it on and sound comes out. How does that happen? So to build it from a component level to pick up the radio and make that sound. So that got me hooked. And again, so I found, that was my local school. And then I found the local university, Lancaster University, had an electronic engineering course. Again, dedicated electronic engineering. So I joined on that. But I mean, out of that course, I was, from the master's degree, there was only 2 qualified. Okay. I was one of them.
My goodness.
So it's I think it's getting people, as I say, I got hooked at school. So I think if you've got electronics, there's a lot of talk of STEM, which is great, the science and the maths part of it, but it's you're getting the electronics in there as well, the engineering side in there as well. If you get kids hooked on building something from component level, up to, that can perform any task you want.
That's what we need to do.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Rich, so you, obviously, as all the business here, you face this kind of skills challenge, this kind of challenge of the skills pipeline. So you work with the businesses beside you on creating this thing called Tech Lancaster. So let's speak a little bit about that and what that was and what it's done.
So as a contract design company, we get involved in a number of different sectors. So we kind of understand relatively well the UK and global sort of landscape around skills, around what is needed to generate new products and new technology and new innovation. And I think from my perspective, growing up, whilst I didn't want to take things apart, I also kind of looked up to so you can see that certain careers allow you to really improve the world, and I think engineering allows you to change the world. But I think as Natasha pointed out before, though, it is still very much focused on engineer sort of stuff, and my view as I've got older is that's only half the equation. We need all the sort of infrastructure around the technical kind of element. We also need all the project element, because it's okay having the best product in the world, but if you can't sell it, or you can't sort of logistically make it, or get support it, well, it's pointless. So I think it's not just focusing on that kind of whole entity, really, to ensure that people who maybe have a technical interest, or kind of want to work with gadgets, or want to work with a power station, or want to work with an aircraft, or whatever, they really have insight into how they can do that. And if they don't want to necessarily get too technical, that's fine, but still understand how it works. I'm sure Natasha understands their products really well, but she's not necessarily an engineer. Well, that's a perfect way that allows people to kind of have a career and ensure effectively that the products get out the door and they get paid. Without getting the product out the door, you don't get paid. So it's very much a very important part of the
So that's
business.
the background here, but then you decided that there was a need to kind of address that quite directly, and you created this thing called Tech Lancaster. So tell us about that.
So I think that there has been, over the past few decades, as work has moved out of the UK, and we've kind of ramped down our domestic capability in this sort of sector. Unfortunately, that's led to a bit of interruption in the skills pipeline. For all these kind of areas, including technical, sort of near technical careers too. So we were really struggling to try and work a solution to this, and work for some years with both public authorities, professional bodies, and central government to try and work out what's currently going on. And we came to the conclusion that really there is still a massive need for industry to kind of really take the lead in defining how we train people, and that's kind of come through in other sectors in apprenticeships. But still, our sector is still so relatively opaque to policymakers and other folk that we needed to maybe make a bit more noise about what we needed. So we set up Tech Lancaster, that we've previously discussed, and basically to assist people in joining our sector, to learn about the sector, to learn about what we do as a job, to learn about all the different types of roles, everything from project management to manufacturing to design, to get people excited about what, the types of things we do on a day-to-day basis, and how you can have a very kind of secure and long-term career in the sector. And we've done that over the past 12 months, and we've led the UK's education policy recently changed around a concept called Skills for Life. We led a pilot for the whole of the UK on that in Lancaster, and it's been very successful.
Brilliant, and I was very privileged to be a part of some of that journey. And we got people starting on that basic electronics course very early in the year, and then they won that for about 12 weeks, and they've had practical skills. To unpick that a little bit for us.
Yeah, so the whole concept of it's actually the Prime Minister's Skills for Life kind of format is one of the alternate ways we want to in the future train people is this bootcamp format, where we take people in on a 12-week intensive course. It's like a taster, really, of allowing people to sort of see what the sector's like. And again, we recruited over 100 local people around the Lancaster, Morecambe Bay and wider Lancashire area onto that project. And we've effectively transformed people from completely different careers who are now in our sector and have discovered something completely new. And some people have discovered skills they never realised they had. And
you had some great rate of sort of graduation. So 70
yeah,
people graduated.
So all the participants undertook, and Nicola later on in the week, who's also been involved in Tech Lancaster, will talk more about it.
So that's Nicola Mortimer, that's your partner, yeah.
That's so basically we put people through the whole programme and gave them specific training that is niche, that is quite niche to our sector.
Yeah.
And with the graduation rates were absolutely excellent. So we now have number of highly skilled, I think over 65 graduated with professional qualifications, and we have many more with our own certifications. We now have them as a pool of talent locally to use. And
that was a pilot test Lancaster, so we're hoping to do more of it.
Yeah, so it was a pilot for the UK government, and they are now rolling out across the rest of the UK. And we are still the only kind of Electech focused group, so we're hopefully going to assist them further in getting that around the UK and effectively replicate that blueprint in other places.
That's superb. Well done for that. And obviously there was a number of businesses that were involved helping you with that.
So Nicola will, if you tune in on for the fireside talk on Thursday, and Nicola will give you the full rundown on the whole project.
Great. Absolutely. Well, I should look forward to that, although I know some of the secrets in the background. So, Natasha, skills. Obviously, this is going to help a bit, but what else can we do to kind of get this kind of skills pipeline so that engineers and non-engineers, understand about the sector and get involved in it?
I think just touching on, again, what Matt and Rich have said, thanks to the Tech Lancaster programme, we've already recruited 2 of the people that came out of the programme, and they're doing fantastically. Again, it was completely new. I think one of the engineers had a background in lorry driving and farming, so a completely different sector, complete novel, but it's doing fantastically, so that's good news for us. And just touching really on what Matt said about schools, so when he did his AS levels, I'm assuming sort of 15, 16 years old, schools now, my daughter's 7 and she's doing software and coding at primary school, which is great. So they are starting to listen. But I realised just recently the European Commission have released a new programme where they're trying to encourage the UK and the European countries to get involved more in engineering, but specifically women in engineering, which I think is a huge gap at the minute. I think I'm probably one of 2 females in the office out of 30 staff, so it's a huge gap at the minute, and there's not a lot of women in engineering. But again, I think it's because it's not applicable to them. They don't understand it. They don't know why it's good for them or why it's exciting. But like Rich said, there's lots of different careers around the Electechs. You don't necessarily have to be the engineer getting involved in the development. One of my huge roles as project manager is to understand the use cases for the products that they're actually developing, because quite often engineers get involved in developing something without actually thinking about how it will be used and how it will be applied to real life, and often it doesn't apply because they're so focused on making it work that they don't think about what the actual user is going to do with it. So there's lots of different areas that people can get involved in.
So there's some superb women engineers who are fantastic at breaking things apart, just like these young lads were back in the day. But also, like you say, there's a whole raft of professions and careers that revolve around this sector and can be part of it. So we learned a little bit about Tech Lancaster, but I know, Natasha, you're involved in an Electech cluster thing, which is a bit different to Tech Lancaster. Tech Lancaster is quite focused on kind of skills, which is fantastic because we need those. We need that skills pipeline coming through. We also need to shine a light on the sector more widely. So tell us a little bit about the Electech sector.
I won't go into too much detail because I think the following session is around the cluster. But we're working again as a cluster, so it's trying to get the emphasis of several SMEs are more powerful as a trade body than one SME trying to tackle everything and all the challenges on their own. And we've put quite a huge focus in the new cluster for working with local universities. We'd like to bring that in, so that will include the skills, but also they have access to a lot more available or accessible functions and different programs, and we can sort of get involved in that and different events, and we've been involved in a few in the last week which Lancaster University's held, and the Lancaster Exchange is one of them. I think obviously you're on that one as well, Mark.
Yes, I was. Forgive me.
It's just that concept of trying to raise awareness of we're here, we're in Lancaster, this is what we're trying to do. Can we work together and can we collaborate with a wider audience and a wider market?
And like you say, the key word there, collaboration, of course, that collective voice. And that we can, as Matt said earlier, just shine a light on this sector, because if people know it's here, then obviously we can, get people involved in the sector and get them working with us. So we're going to kind of go to some closing remarks now. Matt, anything else you want to finally say about kind of the Electech sector, or about electronics, or about your business?
I just want to sort of take on what Natasha said there about, I think, like you say, it's great that like primary school level we're coding and that, but that's where I want to say to me, Electech is, I think, and again, like the government definition, it's underneath that. Coding, I think everyone wants to do an app. Everyone wants to develop the next app and the next fancy website and that. But there's a platform underneath all that, and that's where electronics is. It has to be your phone. The hardware in your phone, the hardware in your computer, the base of the internet. That's all the Electech. So to me, that whilst it's great that people see what's on the screen, I want the interest to be what's behind that screen, what's making that come up on my screen, and to me that's Electech, that's electronics.
Yeah, that's a great definition, Matt. Thank you for that, Rich.
Yeah, I think it's just going back to what we discussed before, where there's not lots of roles available. Many people think that the types of work we do require loads of qualifications, but as you know, many people in our sector, they kind of started and took different routes into Electech, if we want to use that term. So again, qualifications, some people on the Tech Lancaster project, you know, didn't complete sort of college, you know, so and have really kind of discovered a new talent, and there are different ways into Electech, so don't assume it's all complicated techie stuff, you know, there are different ways into the sector. So I really think if anybody is considering a career change or you know, or a career in the future, check it out, and you might be surprised what you can achieve, and you know what your ambition can take you a long way.
Perfect. That's lovely. Natasha?
Just really touching on what these guys have both said as well, it's the concept of you can use transferable skills. So even if you didn't go into a career, or you're just starting out in a career that's not engineering focused, it's not Electech focused, you can still use those skills to some extent and be involved, so you can sort of learn as you go along. You don't have to have a PhD or a degree or specific courses, like Rich mentioned. Then you can learn on the job, and it's really important that you actually do the physical skills as well as having those qualifications as well. You have to be able to apply it.
Yeah, brilliant. So Natasha from Winicom, Rich from Milliamp, Matt from OTAC, thank you so much. Really appreciate all your wisdom here today. Thank you ICS Accounting for sponsoring the event. And we're able to go into a kind of breakout area sort of online. So we're going to stay around. So if you've got any questions for us, want to continue the conversation, please go into that. And of course, all our details are online. You can find us very easily, so you can continue the conversation after today as well. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.